Hi, so I'm here at the Auravine in Glitterbeam Studios in Glitterbeam HQ, and you'll notice that the Auravine is turned off at the moment. There's a bit of an issue with some of the power right now. So it's not looking as bright as it should be. But I am with Don from Mayleaf. Hi.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm very happy to be here. Even if the vine is off, I'm still picking up the colourful vibes here.
Nice. It is normally a lot brighter.
Oh, really?
But not this wall. Normally all lights up behind you. There's all
wow.
lights
Okay.
that go up and down.
Wow, you feel like you're at a rave every second you're in here.
Well, we're a radio station. We have to have some bit of music in there, right? But today is not about that. So as you know, and I'm sure if you've been traveling around and you've seen us at a lot of the different events, you're always thinking, what's he doing? What's that little teapot about? And you came over and asked me about it. Well, now I have an expert who's going to come and tell us all about it. Because me waffling on is not usually the same thing I want to say, though. Now we have a tea expert who's going to tell you exactly the same thing. So, Don, what is about Gong Fu?
Well, first of all, I'm not an expert. We're all students of tea.
Ah, good.
Okay, yeah. The moment you call yourself an expert, you're going to get shot down. So I'm not an expert. I'm just like you. I began my tea journey a while ago, so maybe I've got a few more sessions under my belt.
Okay.
Gong Fu Tea is a style of brewing tea, and it's relatively new compared to the whole scheme of the history of tea, because tea has many millennia of history.
Yes.
Whereas Gong Fu Tea is only a couple of centuries old, which still feels old, but is not that old in tea. And it's really about trying to maximize the experience of tea. So when we talk about experience, we're talking about not just, the sensory aspects of smell and taste, but also the visual aspects, how it's presented, how you appreciate the tea, and also the potency of the tea, which often people don't discuss much about, which is how it makes you feel afterwards. So to try to maximize all of those sensorial elements, the Gong Fu Tea setup was created. Now, some people call it ceremonial because there's lots of little bits and there's lots of little processes.
It brings in the curiosity, though, doesn't it?
Yes, and you can treat it as ceremonial. You can certainly treat it in that way. But ultimately, like I said, it was originally, formulated around just getting the most out of your tea. So it was then sort of adapted and taken by different people, and it's constantly evolving, and Gong Fu Tea is constantly evolving. So there's always new things, being added to it. So even though it's historical, it certainly is evolving, and it's really just about trying to personalize your experience with tea. So if you want to make it ceremonial, make it ceremonial. If you want to make it something that's about your space and taking that time for yourself, beautiful. If, however, you prefer to just drink really high quality tea, then it's just a slightly different setup. But
it's very cool. What I've noticed is I discovered it fairly recently. So I read midway last year, I stumbled into Gong Fu Tea, and I'm one of those people that I throw myself into something. I try it and I'm like, okay, is it okay? And then if I like it, I throw myself in. And I have become one of those that I'm sure I've had people call tea holders. And I've got this huge library now of all of these teas, but I like to rotate. No, rather than stick to one, I like to go through and depending on how I'm feeling. Because now I've experienced all the teas in my collection, that feeling of tea, how it makes you feel. I've sort of navigated that around my tea. I'm like, I'm feeling like this today. I'm going to grab this one.
And that's really important, isn't it? Because everybody's reaction to a tea is going to be slightly different. And so you have a personal reaction to the tea. And that's really the point of Gong Fu. It's more about building your personal relationship with the tea, which is why we always encourage people to brew themselves rather than just have tea served to them. And it's all about really understanding your connection with the leaf. And once you've built that connection and you understand how certain teas make you feel a certain way, both in terms of body sensation, but it could also be around the taste or the aroma or whatever it might be, then yes, you can start to build up a very big collection of tea because, there's many different shades of you, right?
Exactly.
And depending on how you're feeling, you've got different teas to pick up on. And then you can obviously dive into the teaware as well. Well, yes, because once you start to dive into it, you understand how the material changes, the quality of the tea in terms of texture and taste. But there's also the whole, beauty of the artisans and the ceramics.
They are gorgeous.
And And so it leads you into a whole other world. This is the thing about tea, which I find so amazing, is that, it starts off with tea, but then suddenly you're moving into like a love of ceramics and pottery. And then you might be interested in the botany of tea, right? So you start to dive into what makes the plant react in this way and why does it taste this way? And then it's also about the history and the culture or the philosophy, the way of tea. There's so many different angles to tea that once you're in, you're like, you feel compelled to explore them all, right?
So tell me about this one, because you brought this with you.
Yeah, this is a luni pot. So this is Yixing Zesha. So Yixing Zesha, as you probably know, Yixing is a particular area in China where there's a lot of rivers that meet in this area. So it's like throughout history, minerals have just been sucked into this particular sort of basin area. And then the mountains that have formed have got these ores in them, these very valuable ores. And so the clay that's used to make these teapots is made from ores. So they're mining these ores and then they're breaking them down. So it's like powder. And then anyway, it's a long process, storing them in water, letting them age. And every ore has a different quality.
Okay.
They have slightly different qualities. And so this is from the Luni ore. So this is a Benshan Luni, which means it comes from the original mountain. This is the Huanglongshan dragon mountain, yellow dragon mountain. Okay. And so this is like an original ore from there, and it has a really lovely effect on the tea. And I see you've got other teapots there, and you can see that different clays. So this is another Yixing clay, but it's a different color, and it all depends on the ore. As well as other factors, but we could spend a whole 3 hours talking about clay, but that's the basics of it. So Yixing clay is very famed, and there are other areas in China and Japan and other parts that have their own clays that suit their teas.
So this bit's really important, actually, because it's one of the things that I didn't appreciate at first, is actually warming up the tea well.
Yes.
Now, I remember my grandparents always said when they were making tea, obviously they were using tea bags or whatever, and it was like, you must warm the tea well. And I was like, why? What does it make? But it actually does make a difference, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, it does. Well, there's a couple of clear reasons why you would do that. The first reason is because it means that, especially with something that like clay, which takes a while to heat up, if you brew directly in cold, then all of the water temperature is getting sucked out into the clay, and you're not actually brewing at the right temperature. The second reason is so that you can put the dry leaf in, and the dry leaf gets warmed immediately, so you can smell it.
Wow, okay.
And so that's really important, because the aromatic appreciation of tea is fundamental to the whole experience. And if you smell cold leaf, you're not really getting much out of it.
No.
It's one of those things that is a frustration to a lot of tea sellers, is people will come into their store and they'll say, I'm interested in this tea or that tea, and then they want to smell the leaf, and it's like, well, I can let you smell it, but it's not really going to be giving you that much aroma, or it's not going to give you as much of an effect as you would want, because the leaf is not warm.
Yeah, I've always been a bit curious about some of the leaves, some of the teas that I've smelt, where I've smelt the dry leaf, and I'm thinking to myself, that's very, very fragrant. I'm thinking, if this is evaporating into the air now, what's going to be left to go into the tea? If that makes sense. I've always been curious about that.
Yeah,
it's like,
and it's a good point. I'll let you smell this tea. It's a good point because, and it's a perfect example. Of why, if you have a leaf that's cold, that's releasing a lot of aromatics, that's actually not really great, right? It means that whilst it's being stored, it's losing its aroma.
Yes.
And one of the reasons why tea sellers then fall into, I would say, the temptation of scenting their teas, and they could be using natural fragrances maybe, but it's still they're spraying their teas with a smell. The reason is because of that, because they want to wow people when in the shop, but unless they've got warm leaf, they can't do that.
Of course.
Right? So it's a difficult conundrum. So you've got to just educate the consumer not to expect that the cold leaf's going to have that much smell, and to smell it when it's warm.
It must be quite difficult for a tea seller as well, because lots of people are coming in and then, I said, if they're not sending the teas and they're having to dry leaf, it's not a cheap thing. In reality, to start off with, when you have teas, they're not cheap things.
No.
If you do calculations, I have worked out, obviously, that a session of Gong Fu is infinitely cheaper than any of those popular coffee chains that give you a tea bag and a bottle.
Sure.
So I do now. I look at the Gong Fu Tea in a slightly different way. But if they are selling it and they are doing samples all of the time, that's going to rack up for them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it is one of those things. It's when you look at the price of high quality tea, a lot of people balk at it and go, "Well, I'm not used to spending this amount of money on tea." Yeah. But as you say, when you brew it Gong Fu style, this session could last you a whole day.
Literally.
Exactly. And so you can have many hours of enjoying this. And I think a lot of people think of tea as just like a mug, right? And they think, well, I'm not going to spend, I don't know, sometimes a session might cost you, I don't know, £1, £2 when you calculate it. I'm not spending £2 on like a mug of tea. Well, no, of course not. But you would you would spend £2, £3, £4, £5 on a session that lasts you the whole day.
Yeah, which I love because if I did used to buy tea from the coffee shops, and sometimes it's like £6. I'm thinking in here there's just hot water and 2 tea bags.
Yeah.
And then when I've gone through and I've sat with friends and family doing Gong Fu Tea, and they're like, "Oh well, how much is that cake that you got here?" And I'm like, "Oh well, this was like about £70, £78 for this one." And they're like, "What?" And I'm thinking, yeah, break it down and how much that you've used. It still works out cheaper than that coffee you buy every single month.
Yeah.
And I'm going through this the entire day while I'm sat in the office. Little bits here and
there. Yeah, and infinitely more like intricate and expansive the experience will be.
100%. I like the transformative nature of it. Like you start with one and how it slowly changes. See the smells, the flavors that are in there.
All right, go on, tell me about the smells.
Oh, I'm terrible at this one.
This is all I'm testing.
Oh, thank you. I can tell it's a sheng.
Okay, sheng. You want to tell people out there what sheng means, or are you just going to assume that they know?
It's like a raw tea. It's slightly fermented tea, right?
It's in the process of fermentation.
Because one of my favorites is like I haven't been exploring these ripe and raw pu'ers or sheng and shu pu'ers, but I still gravitate towards the HR, which is a black tea. Not black tea in UK terms. That's the red tea over here. So your tea bags that you're using, if you're using tea bags, I hope not. But if you are using tea bags, that's actually red tea. But let's see what I'm getting. It's complex, isn't it?
So this is from 2020. So this has been aged for 6 years. So as you've explained so clearly, this started out essentially as a sun-dried green tea.
Yeah.
And now you can see how it has shifted in color to a very, darker tea.
Of course.
Right, and it will continue to age. And a lot of people don't realize that some teas can benefit from aging.
So I'm terrible with smells and things. Okay. I'm getting citrusy things. I'm getting citrus, maybe.
Instead of trying to describe food notes, environment.
Oh.
Where are you?
So when I smell this, I'm actually walking by the fruit and veg stalls in Borough Market.
There you go. Okay, right. So you're getting
in the Lake District
medley of fruits and veg. Right. You're also picking up maybe some of the building itself. The stone,
the stonework,
and the woods, and the.
That's why it reminded me. When I was a kid, I used to go around the Lake District.
Okay.
And I'm 99% certain there was a cavern that I explored that had a very, very similar.
Okay.
Fresh with a bit of a waterfall, not too far away.
Right. So you're picking up caverns, you're picking up some minerality from the rocks, some water, some fruits, some vegetables.
Yes.
Yeah. Beautiful. This is the joy of tea tasting, is it should be transported.
Yeah. And what you necessarily experience, it doesn't mean someone else will experience.
In fact, by definition, it shouldn't be, right? Because we all taste and smell with memory.
Yeah.
And you don't have the same memories as I do.
Of course not.
So somebody who comes from Hong Kong, brought up their whole life in Hong Kong, will have a completely different set of descriptors compared with you.
Yes.
100%. And that's the joy.
Yeah.
Because actually through tasting, you're sharing.
Yeah, because you can share those experiences with other people.
And through the sharing of memory, you connect.
Yes. And I think that's really important, the fact that we all get together, we don't talk enough. That's the thing. We're all on our phones doing things. And one of the things I've loved about this is the fact that you can get around, even with strangers, which I've done, like I said, at events that you've seen me, and we just start talking. and we're sharing things we wouldn't necessarily have shared, because we're just sharing all these memories, and whether they're appropriate or inappropriate, it just all starts coming out. But I think it connects you on a different level.
Oh, absolutely. It gives you a centerpiece upon which you discuss your past, your history, and that is just a remarkable thing. Now, smell, as it's wet, it changes, right? So it becomes you smell more of the mineral, you smell more of the rock because it's waking up.
I can smell the fermentation.
Yeah, you can smell that the sugars in it have started to caramelize.
Yes,
because essentially that aging process, one of the processes that's happening is the Maillard reaction. You know the Maillard reaction when you cook a piece of meat or something, you get that caramelization.
Yes.
People think that the Maillard reaction only happens at high temperature, but with enough time, it happens over many, many years. So you are getting a caramelization that's happening, even though it's at room temperature. Anyway.
That's nice, though.
So we've rinsed the tea, and now we're going to give it its first infusion. And because this is a 6-year-old tea, the first infusion is, by its very nature, going to be light, because it's just going to be waking up.
Yes. So one of the things that I've experienced with these shanks, because I know we spoke a little bit in the past about them. I had a huge difficulty brewing these correctly at one point, and they were always and I practiced, and I eventually actually got it to there where I'm like, I'm understanding why people like this.
Yeah, I know. It is. It's one of those things. Shangpua is an area that takes a while to get into, but once you're in, you're locked in.
You're hooked in.
Yeah.
Right, so let's have a look at this one. It's a lovely colour.
Beautiful, yeah, like lovely apricot colour. It's just saying hello. It's just opening up, and that's we were talking about it before, right? This idea of the smell dissipating.
Yeah,
and you don't want that to happen. Good tea requires patience, right?
Yes.
It's not going to give up everything. There's one of the big differences between, I would say, tea bag tea, or what we call commodity tea, and specialty tea. Is tea bag tea is designed for give as much flavor as quickly as possible, right? Yeah. Just because it's about convenience. And so reframing that as an act of patience and having reverence for that patience is a really important part of tea.
It is, and that's one thing I actually take a lot of joy in, is the fact that it's almost like a meditation, because you take that time. Because when I have my tea, I'm thinking I'm removing myself from whatever was going on in that day. This is me time. I'm experiencing the tea. I'm thinking about what's the tea giving me. I'm using it sort of like as a relaxation. That's in there. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But that's just my evening tea, you know.
But the thing is that what I always tell people is tea has a way of somehow creeping through the back door and changing the way that you live. But it doesn't do it in a forceful way, or like you need to go to the gym, or you need to sit and meditate. It does it as a sort of a hack. You just sit and drink tea, and all those benefits. So there's health benefits of tea, but there's also the sort of mental calm of tea. There's the space that tea gives you. There's the connection, like we talked about. All of these things just come into play, and you don't really know it.
No.
I sort of make it it's in a way there's an equivalence to a fireplace.
Yes, it is, where you all gather around with your
marshmallows. Like you don't really know why, but if there's a fireplace in the room,
you gather.
You're going to gather, and you're going to talk, and there's going to be a connection somehow, right? And the warmth that it gives you, and it's nourishing, and it's nostalgic, and it has this is very intrinsically sort of based on your humanness.
Yeah, it's completely true. And that's one of the things that I found. Like now when I go home, I'll sit around and get the family around, and they'll ask questions about it. Me and my sister was sat there, and the first time she was like, "Just taste like tea," and I was like, "Okay." So we kept on going, and this is specifically a Fu HR tea.
Oh, you went in quite hardcore with her.
Totally. You throw them in at the deep end.
Those teas can be quite wild. Yeah.
And so we were drinking, and then slowly she was like, "Oh, what's that? Oh, this taste." And she was like, "Oh, this reminds me." It was bringing back these. We were talking about these memories and things like that, and I'm sure she won't mind me saying that she's had a bit of trouble sleeping and that. And just, I think the fact that we just sat there literally for about 2 or 3 hours, chatting away, unwinding, and having this tea literally bring back these memories for both of us of these different things.
Yeah.
She went home, she's like, "Oh, that was the best night's sleep I've ever had."
Yeah.
I was like, and that's what's powerful about it. I was like, it's the fact that it's not just something you've got to sit and enjoy. It's
it's the whole aura around it.
Yes.
Yeah. And the subtlety of it.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that we sort of lack a lot in the modern days. We're so bombarded with stimulation constantly that we sort of lose sight of the subtleties.
Yes.
Right. And it might be the little hidden joys that you take for granted because you're so you're getting the sensorial extravaganza from your phone or from wherever it is. Tea teaches you that subtlety. Like when you taste this tea, you're like, okay, you need to explore it. You need to go into it. It's not something that's going to be like bags of sugar and blackcurrant flavor. It requires attention, and that training of subtlety is something that can only lead to a happier life.
So tell me about this tea that you brought. So you brought this specifically, and I'm curious about it.
Okay, so I brought this tea more I like to let the fates decide.
Okay.
So I was about to leave to come down here, and I thought I would bring a tea, and I just opened my tea cupboard, and I was just sort of looking, and then this cover spoke to me just because I don't know, it just felt like the right cover.
I love it
for today. So this is called the Resin Temptress. And the way that we design our artwork for our covers is we taste the tea. We try to, like I said, we try to imagine a location, or we try to imagine a feeling or a vibe. It's something that's not just about tasting notes. It's about the whole feeling of a tea. And then we try to sort of symbolize that in an animal and a scene. So in this case, it's this camel, with this lavish mirror, and you see there's incense around, and there's some mango. So we throw in a few tasting notes in there, of what it tastes like when it was fresh, but now it's aged, right? So it's very different, but just so we get a feel for it. This tea is from 2020. It's from 300-year-old tea trees, estimated. So it's a gushu, which means it's ancient tea material. And that's important because just like people, the length of the memories of a plant impact and can only improve its character.
100%.
Right? So a more lived life, more character. It's the trees have to undergo more hardship. And when you undergo hardship, you build character. And you can taste it.
Yes.
And we can talk about how you pick up that if you want. But essentially, this is a 300-year-old tea tree. This is 3 tea trees, not single tree. But it's a very small batch. They're only 40 kilos.
Wow.
So it's a very small batch.
So the important thing about these trees is that when they are so old, obviously, they grow bigger, they grow stronger, the roots go deeper. And like I said, it's experienced more. I heard a fantastic story, actually, about a particular type of tea where they was telling me that, it was struck by lightning and cultivated from this. And I found something, and I was like, right, I'm going to try it. It's like Leiku chai.
Yeah.
And I was like, even if it's not real, I'm enjoying the tea. The legend, the story that comes behind it is actually quite drawing.
Teasing out between legend and truth is one of the challenges of anybody who's embarking on tea, as you know, because of the history. I mean, we're talking thousands of years of history. There's lots of legends that have been created, right? And a lot of the time, the legends are based on truths that are then fancified, right? Or stories. You know how narration goes, right? Of
course.
Everyone who tells a story adds their own little.
The little bits.
The little bit, and the Chinese whispers literally change, right? So trying to work out the difference is part of the fun of tea. But overall, in general, the truth is that when you actually tease it out, there is the kernel of wisdom behind it generally stays true. And in the case of tea trees that have experienced like lightning strikes and things like that, it's certainly true that the main things that you are tasting in a tea are the secondary metabolites And they usually come from, or they can change or become more complex when the plant is stressed.
Yeah, of course.
So, if you think about lots of things like caffeine as just a simple example, the reason why caffeine is produced is to stop insects from biting.
Yeah.
Right. It's an insect.
Like the way holly changes from round leaf into
exactly right. So the plant is trying to survive, and then if it goes through periods of drought, like it goes through years of drought or goes through years of cold or excessive sun, it has to develop defenses. So it develops all these secondary metabolites, which just so happen to also smell and taste good, right? And that's the joy of it, right? Because sometimes they're using it as aromatics to try to draw in predators of pests that are on them, for example. So they like put out smells to encourage other insects to come and eat the insects. So there's this whole beautiful communication that's happening, right? And you get to taste it, and that's amazing. You get to taste the history,
That's stunning.
Well, the joy of these teas is always going to be primary. Is going to be the aftertaste.
Yes.
Right.
That's one thing I actually appreciate is the aftertaste. And it's going to sound really crazy, but when you've been drinking teas in this particular way, exhaling through your nose brings an entirely different. I'm like, how has that came about? And I'm like, because you inhale, you're smelling it one way, but then you're exhaling it, and it's a different thing.
Totally different. Yeah. It's called retronasal olfaction.
Oh, okay.
So it's basically sending the aromatic vapor the other way down your nose.
Yeah.
And one of the things that people sort of erroneously say is that dogs have an amazing sense of smell. Dogs are trained with their long noses, the ones that do have long noses, for standard smelling, right? So breathing in from the world. Humans are designed for tasting. We've got short noses because of the fact that we're designed for like appreciating tastes and sending the aromatics through your nose the other way. And it's a whole beautiful world to understand the science of smell. But it's interesting that we are able to pick up and discern so many smells. It's unbelievable, but it does require a bit of practice and training.
One thing I said, because when my sister was doing it, I said she was saying that she's only testing tea. And that seems to be the default thing I'm getting from a lot of people, testing tea. But then slowly, after a little bit, they're like, hang on, I'm getting this. Like one of our presenters at Isola, she came to an event with us, and it was the first time she ever experienced Gong Fu Tea. And the first thing herself and her other half, Cooper, said was, my grandmother's got a plant that smells like this. I was like, I said, do you have a picture? And you showed this plant, and that was growing in the garden. And it was just this wild orchid thing. And it was like, it's like, I'm reminded of my grandpa. I was like, there you go.
It is, isn't it? It's peeling back, sort of like it starts off just being like one note, like, it tastes like tea. And then as you sort of taste into it, and again, the joy of Gong Fu is that you have the time to do that. And you're tasting it as a time lapse. You're sort of brewing it in bits. So you're getting to tease it and peel back the layers of the onion to understand the flavor. And then, these memories start to magically appear.
That's absolutely incredible.
So resin temptress, just like all of our teas, we don't ever buy or source teas just blindly from the same farmers every year. Every year we just taste afresh.
Okay.
And this tea is a bit of an oddity because it comes from an area called Jinggu. Now, Jinggu in Yunnan is renowned for its black teas. So Jinggu black tea and Jinggu white tea, that's what it's known for. And it's not really known that much for Sheng or Shu Pu'er tea. There are many famous mountains, as you know, that command lots of different price points, depending on the village that you source from. So it was a bit strange, but I taste blind, so we don't know anything about the tea. So we just select from blind tasting.
So if you taste it and you like it personally?
Yeah. And so it's I think that's a very important part of my role is to make sure that I'm not influenced too much by the stories, right? Because it's inevitable. If somebody says this is from a 1,000-year-old tea tree, you're going to taste it different.
Exactly. Right? And that's one of the things that I found with that thunder story when the tree hit when the thunder hit the tree. And I was like, I was drawn in by the whole legend of it. And then, did the taste of the tea live up to the legend? No. Did I enjoy it? Yes.
And so, yes, it's really important that you strip away, at least from my role. I think from a consumer point, it's up to you. If you want to like listen to the stories and to enhance your experience of the tea, fine. If you prefer to sort of not listen too much and just taste it, that's up to you. But as somebody who's curating a tea collection, my job is to try to strip away the stories as much as possible and just say, does this tea have an amazing experience? And the word like, you said the word like, and in many ways, it's not just about like, it's more about the experience.
Yes.
And sometimes a tea can be awkward. Sometimes a tea can be a bit like brash.
Yeah.
But you remember it. You're like, wow, that was really... And again, I equate it to...
Smacks you and then leaves a memory.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, hopefully not too hard. Hopefully there's a bit of gentle as well. But yeah, I again equate it. I think there's so many connections with people. You know, you meet somebody and, you know, just because somebody's nice doesn't mean that they're going to have charisma.
No, true.
Or that they're going to be somebody that's memorable that you want to meet again.
Yeah.
Right? So it's all about, like, does this tea make me want to, like, go back to it?
Yeah. I think that's important as well, because it does become, people, you appreciate the tea for what they are and think, are you going to go back to it? I mean, the amount of teas that I've bought, I've said to myself, I should throw it away.
Yeah,
you know?
Right.
And then I was like, I shouldn't throw it away, but I'm thinking, do I keep it and try it again? So I've now got this collection of tea.
Right.
That
it's your charity collection.
I've locked it away. But I'm going to try it again in like a year. See, has it changed? If it hasn't changed, I think if I'm still appreciating it, it's like, I'll just go in the trash.
Or you can give it away. There's apparently websites now that I'm constantly being told by people, because I tell people, you can imagine I taste 1,000 teas a year.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So you can imagine that, and we have about 93% rejection rate.
Wow. Okay.
So we only pick about 7 to 10% of those teas. So you can imagine I've got a lot of teas left over. And I do tell people, I try to give away some, but I do tell people I throw them away, and then I get all these like messages like, do not throw away tea. I'm helping you here. There are apps apparently that you can like list your tea, and people will come and any food and take it.
Okay, well, I'll go to search for that then, and I promise I will stop throwing away any teas, and I will start giving them and donating them and that sort of.
Especially because they're probably pretty decent teas. Yeah, no, there are some. I've looked at it. They're giving away half a pack of biscuits.
Right, it's okay.
Yeah, and people are literally going around to their house to get half a packet of digestives.
You want half a pack of biscuits?
Yeah, exactly. Stop food waste. Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
I have to admit, that's one of the things that the drawing tribute to the tea actually was the sort of like the welfare of the tea farmers, things like that. And obviously I've started making connections within that world just purely organically, not out of wanting to do that, because I'm 100% a consumer of tea.
Yeah, but you've gone deep in.
But I want to go to source. And I did with a lot of I've been in contact with a lot of the people who grow tea and process tea, and even electronical goods within there and within the tea world, and even some potters as well. And I know I've gone maybe a bit too far for a consumer, right?
You can have your own custom pots made. You can have your glitter bean pots.
Oh, no, they've been giving us ideas.
Do it. I think you should do it. I reckon you should do it. Glitter bean teaware.
Could you imagine it engraved on the side?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh God, I've got an idea now. Oh, yeah, there goes the bank balance again.
Because the bank balance. Anyway, you were saying you got in contact with the farmers.
So I've done that. And then I always had in my head, it's maybe rightly or wrongly, that it's a backbreaking labour, which I realise it completely is 100%. Yeah. And I was thinking, are they paid enough? Are they doing this? And I'm thinking, I think you just have to trust that they are. Because I've seen obviously some of the producers, and you're like, they're getting a good income from this. Hopefully that's passed down to the people that are actually picking the leaves and helping them.
There's a lot of controversy around this, and quite rightly so. I think tea, you've got to separate commodity tea from specialty tea. That's not to say that there are not bad practices in specialty tea as well. But commodity tea has, if you look at especially like the subcontinent, like Sri Lanka or India, places like that, historically, us Brits, you want to call it, if you want to align yourself, the colonialists, they basically, it was slave labor.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it comes from that history.
Yes.
And so even though, yes, the tea industry developed, there's still a lot of not great. And that's changing, and there's more cooperatives and more, associations, and there's more like organized labor, etc. So it is changing. However, when you go to places like China, it is backbreaking work. Anybody who's sat or stood in a tea field and plucked for more than an hour will tell you that it's like, I'm done. And it's like they're doing it every day for 6 hours straight, or, or not every day, but every day during the harvest season. So, it's hard work. It's hard work. Yeah. But, when you're paying your money for these teas, you say it was quite expensive, like £80, £100, £120 for a couple of 100 grams of tea. Yeah. The farmers and the producers are living well.
Yeah, you need to reflect on the amount of, even though I said it's expensive, you need to reflect on the amount of work.
Exactly. If you start to break it down by the amount of labor that's gone into that tea, even during the dormant period when it's not been like, when they're just tending to the gardens, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Yeah. And that's one of the things I've appreciated is the fact that it's one plant. Yeah, there's different cultivars and there's different breeds of all the same plant. But the fact that you can get such a range of tastes and experiences purely from how the tree's been grown, how it's processed, certain varieties that are processed in a certain way, and you find people doing experiments where they go, this variety would normally be done for white tea, however I've turned it into this tea to see what it would turn into. Yeah. And it's almost like it's an art.
It's the perfect symbiosis of many different things, but like nature and humans coming together to create something beautiful. And yes, it involves art, it involves science, it involves craft, it involves innovation, experimentation, it involves wisdom of the past. It involves all of that. And every producer will have a slightly different, intention. Yes. And that intention, if they do their job well, translates in the taste, translates in the experience. And that's why your collection of tea is so big, because there's always going to be different experiences to be had. And it's even different experiences year by year. When you buy the same things from the same person one year and then from a different year, and you're like, it's ever so slightly different. Which I think, so when you've obviously sourced your teas, it's like, how do you feel like when it's gone, it's gone. You're never going to have that experience again in that way. Yeah. I mean, and I think you have two choices. You either like mourn that and feel like, oh no, I can't repeat, or you celebrate it and say that actually is a really beautiful symbol of life in general, right? The only constant is change. You're never going to step into the same river twice, right? That whole thing. And it's the same with tea. Like, you're never going to taste the same cup of tea twice. I mean, even within the micro session of, a couple of hours of having a session, every infusion of this leaf is going to be different. You can see that it's changing in this one. And it's changing in this one. And if you brewed it, same leaf, it would be different. Yes. And so, you can go all the way down the scale or all the way up the scale, and it's always going to be different. Yeah. And that's something that I think is a beautiful lesson in tea. Another one that you can add to the long list of lessons, and part of what is often called the way of tea. Because it's a never-ending book at the moment, isn't it? The one thing, and that's why scholars and academics and poets and have revered this drink, is because the way of tea teaches you many things, and one of those things is the acceptance of impermanence. Yeah. And if you can't accept impermanence, you're going to be pretty miserable in your life. Yeah. That's one of the things that I actually live by. The understanding that everything has to move forward. You either move with it, or it's going to be very, very difficult for you. Exactly. And, without getting too deep, ultimately, it leads to acceptance of mortality. Exactly. Because you're watching in the flow of a session, you're watching this leaf like come to life, give up its flavor, and then as you brew into it, and it becomes back to water, and it's spent. There's a beautiful arc in that, which again is sort of like, in the back door subconscious, but it's embedded within the whole process. And so, it's an important lesson to learn. 100%. I would never have thought of that, but the fact that we're sitting here having tea,
and all of a sudden this was coming out with these. I've never thought about it in the light before.
Yeah.
Once I'm finished with the leaves, he said, "I just give up everything for you." I then recycle that into compost and flowers in the back garden. It still carries on going.
Just like us.
Tea afterlife.
Just like us. That's and like look, I think you can make these associations with everything in nature, but the fact that you are living it and you're experiencing it and you're tasting it and you're using all your senses, visual, aroma, taste, sense of temperature, touch, all of these things, and then the body sensation, like I'm feeling now a rising warmth coming from this tea, right? Yes. So you're sort of absorbing the power of this nature, and to have all of those senses like directly changing you, with that overarching arc of it's never going to be the same.
Of course,
it's a beautiful lesson if you choose to listen.
No, of course. So, what has been your? Because obviously you've experienced so many different things. Is the one that stood out to you the most? You thought that has been absolutely.
The short answer to that question is no, because like it happens all the time. It's happening, every year I'm tasting at least a handful of teas that I'm like, what? How did this happen?
Yeah.
And so inevitably my mind just wanders to what was the last thing that happened. So we have a tea that we've released a couple of months ago called Wild Slumber.
Oh,
you tried that one? You got it.
I've got it. Yes.
So you know it, and so that's a very different kind of white tea. And if you've had white tea before, there's many different styles of white tea, but the wild taste in it. Again, I think the things that really excite me about tea is when I taste more of the location. That's what I get, because when humans get involved and they start to interact with the leaf and process it, they can start to craft different aromatics, and that's beautiful and that's really enjoyable. Yes. Most of the case in oolong tea, for example. Oolong tea has a lot of human involvement, right? It's lots of processes, and so you can develop all of these aromatics. But what I love about Shangpuer white tea is actually when it's relatively unprocessed and you taste the location, you taste the experience of the plant, and in that case, you could taste the wildness of that plant.
You can.
The problem is that now it's being cultivated and grown, you're going to lose that. So again, accepting of impermanence, that is probably not going to be easy to find again. But
the thing is, what it reminded me of when I was having that one, because I don't talk about flavors and things, but there's that memory aspect of it as well. The flavor of that particular tea took me back to literally sat in a pub in summer with Pimm's. Yeah. It reminded me of Pimm's, the flavor of the thing. It was like there was the peaches and the strawberries and the slight cucumberness of it, and I loved it. So it's there now, and so once that's gone, if it's still in stock, I'll be grabbing some.
Well, so and not to be too much of a salesman, but that's why people, like, if they love a tea, they'll buy like a ton, they'll buy 5.
Yes,
because if it is one of those things. It is batch dependent. Yeah. Once it's gone, it's gone. That's not to say we won't find something that has some similarities, but it's never going to be the same tea. Yeah. And of course, it will continue to age, right? So you're going to.
I love aged whites.
And and so this is going to be an interesting experiment. We're all doing experiments. What's that tea going to become in 5-10 years?
I've kept actually the very, very first tea that I bought that I at the time considered was expensive. Right at the beginning of my journey, and it was a Lapsang Souchong from a very well known tea seller here in the UK. Said, "Oh, we sell to hotels, we do this," and I was like, "Oh, great, fantastic!" And the first time I tried it, I was like, "Are you unsure about it?" And then now that I've experienced other Lapsang Souchong, I now hate it. And I go back to it and I'm like, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. I was like, but I don't want to throw it away because it was the first one I bought. I was like, what do I do? But yeah,
so what have you done with it?
It's just sand.
A little museum.
Little museum of,
one of the great things added to the list of about tea is it teaches discernment.
Yes.
And we talked about it before. Subtlety helps that, right? Because it's much easier to build discernment when you've got to search for it. And so, yes, these old teas that, at one point you thought was okay, and then now you've gone on your journey a bit further.
Yeah.
They should be, you should look at them and say, that was a training. That was good training.
Literally. That's why I haven't been able to throw it away. Because the first one, exactly. I'm thinking, so that's sentimental value that's there. But would I drink it again? No. Maybe as a to go back there. Yeah, this is how I started. Yes. I was like, that was my entry point. Yeah. And everything came from that. Yeah. That was the thing.
It was the gateway.
Exactly. But thank you for coming to join me. It's been
an absolute pleasure.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you here. And sorry about not being able to have everything going in the studio, unfortunately.
See, I don't know the difference, so for me it's great.
Well, maybe if you come across next time in the new studio, you can see what it's like.
Yeah, we've got plenty of tea to drink.
But this has been absolutely fabulous. That is stunning.
It's only just waking up still.
Actually, do you know what it reminds me of? I'm drinking it before we leave. Might sound really stupid, but we were talking about Italy before we started recording.
Yeah.
When you're sat on the beach and there's the wind kicking up on the sands at the beach.
Yeah.
In the smell.
So it's got the rocks, the marine rocks, the warm sand.
That's it.
And then the little bitter hit means that you're having a little Amaro. Add an Amaro, some sort of aperitif there.
I love how he says a little one. It's always followed by another.
Lots of little ones, yeah.
Just like the tea, lots of little cups.
Exactly.
But thank you, Don. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. Anytime.